Hi, writers. Welcome to episode number 65 of How Do You Write? I'm Rachael Herron, and I am so glad that you're here. I am especially glad this week because this week I speak to Michelle Spiva, and she's going to blow your mind. Honestly, I have great guests on the show. I have never not loved somebody that I've interviewed because I'm really lucky that way. But Michelle Spiva just rocked my world. She is going to rock yours. I can 100% guarantee you that. If she doesn't rock your world, email me and I will give you back the money you paid to listen to this show. But seriously, she is somebody that you're going to want to know, that you're going to want to follow. I want to do anything she does. I want to follow her teachings. I want to go hear her speak. She is great. I can't hype her up enough. So I think that you are going to love the show. In personal update, I'm going to keep it really brief because I'm really, really busy. There's a certain time when my Berkeley class overlaps with my Stanford class in terms of turning papers in. So I'm in the weeds when it comes to grading. I need to hop off this podcast and do a bunch more grading. And also in the weeds with writing, but I have finished the revision on the thriller. And like I said in my email, if you get my writer's newsletter, I still have to get to the very end, though. I'm still 6,000, maybe 8,000 words shy of the end, which drives me crazy, but that's my process. I write up to the end. I don't write the end, I revise the whole book, and then finally I get the end. So that's where I am right now, which is a pretty exciting time because that's fun. You're racing downhill. There's only one ending for this book, thank God. And I'm racing there. So that's been fun. I am headed out tomorrow, or I can't remember when I'm heading out, to LA for Writer's Digest conference. I'm giving 3 panels there. That should be fun, but I tell you what, I have been out of town 4 times in the last 4 weeks, and I'm looking forward to unpacking my suitcase completely and leaving it empty for at least a month or 2, I'm hoping. So that makes me sound very glamorous and jet-setting, and I really am not. You guys, you know me. I'm normally at this desk surrounded by all the dogs that you can see walking around me. So I'm very grateful to be able to travel the way I have been doing, but I'm also a homebody, and I want to be home. So I'm going to hop off this recording because Michelle and I talk a little bit longer than we normally do on the show, and you're going to love every single freaking second of it. So enjoy. I wish you very happy writing. I hope that you're having fun on the page. And if you're not, try having fun on the page. Do 1,000 words of something that just delights you, even if it's not in what you're writing right now, even if it's nothing to do with the book that you're working on or the essay that you're working on. I dare you to write 1,000 words of something that is a delight for you. So happy writing. Talk to you soon. Enjoy this interview. Okay, well, you guys, I could not be more pleased today to welcome Michelle Spiva. Hello, Michelle.
Hello, Rachel. How are you?
Oh, I'm just so tickled you could be on the show. Let me give you a little introduction, and then I'm just going to jump in and pepper you with questions. So, Michelle Spiva, define, harness, and propel your unique creative brilliance. That's what you'll discover during an encounter with Michelle Spiva, which you guys are going to encounter right now, with an MBA-Finance, MA-Psych, Masters of Divinity with an education concentration, and 20 plus years experience as a psychotherapist and corporate finance strategist. Michelle's approach to all things publishing and personal management is relevant, contemporary, and useful wisdom. Experience Michelle's witty and common sense approach to thriving as a consistently productive and profitable author. Michelle, I first heard you on Simon's Rock and Sell Publishing, and I just fell in love with your whole being, your energy, the way that you not only produce tons of books, tons of well-regarded books that I cannot wait to read. One's already queued up on my Kindle. The Michael, I forgot the last name.
Michael Daniels.
Yes, Michael Daniels, Mychal Daniels. So you're productive, but you also share generously of your knowledge and how you got to where you are. So this is a random question, but how many books have you published? Do you know?
Mm-hmm. I get asked that all the time. Published, I need to update. Published 44, but still where you can get them 37. No, 44. No, look at me. 36. No, that's not right. I'm sorry. 31. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It all runs together. And there's a reason why I had to calculate that, because my first few years, I was in my hot mess phase. I think I was trying to be Love and Hip Hop, Real Housewives, and all of that, because it was just horrible. The stories were just horrible. I was self-taught, so it was a mess. And so when I decided to go full-time, I decommissioned those books, set up a whole new account and everything. And then the hard drive that they lived on an old computer died. So I don't even have them anymore. But they were all little short erotics. They were cute. That's what got me into writing.
I just broke into a full sweat, though, just at that thought. But I've never heard anybody say that they put up and pulled down, because I do have this theory that and people hate hearing this, but I don't know if many of us should ever publish those first couple of books. I really don't. And I always advocate for people, if you really want to publish, put it up. But be okay with taking it down if you get really bad reviews and people hate it, because you might just be in this learning process. But I love that you actually did that. But I hate that you lost them. Oh my gosh.
It's okay. It's okay. The thing that I had to realize was that it was meant to be. Yeah. Because what happens if I ever decide that, I mean, not me, but if something like globally happens and people can go find those and they'll be like, I mean, they were blood-curdling bad.
I bet they weren't as bad as you think they were, but I bet they're not as good as what you have now.
Yeah, I'll say, just with those, I was preoccupied. I was in a master's to PhD program, and I could tell when I went back and looked at them when I decided to go full-time that I was not committed to them. It was kind of like when I was writing them, I was like, oh, this might be fun, and just writing craziness and putting it up to make the ends meet while I was in school. And so when I decided to go full time, I mean, the books did well enough for me to make that jump. I was like, that mind that wrote those books is not the mind that's going to take me into this seriously. So that was another reason.
I love that. That's so smart. Well, tell us about then you do so much. What is your writing process like on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I actually just showed somebody this yesterday. I like to really keep things as simple as possible. I have been writing in Scrivener for quite some time. But Rachel, I just changed.
What?
Yeah, I didn't change the Scrivener as a repository for everything I do, because I mean,
it's such a good place to hold everything.
Yeah, it holds everything. So like all my plots and all that kind of stuff, it works. But what I have done, and I'm gonna just tell you now, I am singing their praises. Grammarly, it is the truth.
What?
Oh my God, my editors love me now. I mean, well, they like me better than they used to.
Because I have been hearing about this and I haven't tried it. What do you like about it?
Okay. Well, first of all, it auto updates as you write, just like Scrivener would, across platforms. So, no joke. I was writing one of my chapters and I had to go to the grocery store, and a thought came to me. Don't judge me, but I have this little Chromebook, and I took it with me, because I knew I was in the mode of writing this scene, but I had to go to the grocery store, and I took it, and right when I was about to leave the grocery store, the thought hit. I took that little Chromebook, opened it up to Grammarly, because you can do it desktop or online, and I kept writing, didn't miss a beat.
I didn't know it had that functionality.
And yeah, and so you can set it. I mean, can you tell? I mean, I'm just all thirsty about this thing.
I'm so excited to try it. How much does it cost?
Well, they do it. You can do it either monthly or yearly. And, if you search around, you can get discounts. I think I pay like $139, $140, but to pay just a bit over $10 a month, that helps me save so much on my editing and revision costs. It is well worth it. It is one of the best things I've done. Now, I do need to say this. it has a limit that they can go up to. And so I have found that I only write about 5 chapters at a time, and then I pull them back down into Scrivener, or because I format in Vellum, Scrivener, Vellum, whatever. Mm-hmm. But this is what I do, and you're going to laugh.
I love this.
So when I want to start writing, now, if I'm going to write something fast, and for me, something fast is anywhere from like 15K to about 50K. What I do is I just answer 5 questions that I've come up with over my time as a full-time writer. And I need to say that I'm not a writer. I am a storyteller. And once I realized that, my whole approach changed. And so because of that, I'm not trying to tell a story. You know what I'm trying to do, Rachel? I'm trying to make you go to the bathroom when I say you can go to the bathroom. So I am trying to write the heck out of a story that keeps you engaged. So everything I'm doing has nothing to do with a story. It has to do with what I want to do to seduce you. Yeah. So therefore, I found that I wasn't plotting like everybody was plotting. So let me just tell you real fast, 5 things. So the first thing I do is I decide on what kind of emotion I really want this reader to have. And when I say I want them to have, I mean, what am I really feeling or able to just show out on at that particular time? You know, right now, I am really feeling the need to have some power with all of the stuff that's going on, you know, with the women's stuff and harassment and all that stuff. Yes. So I've really been dealing with being taken for granted, misunderstood, and those types of things. So those are some of the emotions that I have been targeting for readers. Like, I want them to know, I see you, I understand. Girl, I got you. Or guy, I got you. After that, I figure out some kind of way that I can get them to empathize with me. I don't want you sympathizing with my character. I just want you to say, me too. So the next thing I do is I'll think of some kind of little scenario where I'm like, what can I get this reader to read? And they say, me too. And that's how my hook starts. So my empathy, that me too moment, is the hook of how I'll start a book. And I want it. Yeah, I kind of want it to be a little shocking, or I want it to either be funny, shocking, or curiosity building. So those are like my 3 top ones that I do. And yeah, I'm telling you all the goods.
I'm like observing. Keep talking.
Yeah. You know, so, okay, so those are the first 2 things. My emotion that I want with the reader, the empathy that I want to get that reader to have, and that's what starts to dictate what kind of story I'm going to write. I usually already know my genres that I'm writing in, so I know the rules of what has to happen and what they expect. But once I have those, then that's when I start moving into what the big end will be. I used to avoid it. I used to just be writing and like, it'll come to me. But now I have learned that I want to kill that ending. And how I do that is, instead of figuring out what has to happen in the story, I figure out where I want the reader to end up. And for me, my sell-through has increased, because when I figure that out as a storyteller, as an entertainer, I'm looking at it like a actor or a comedian. When you leave this place, I want you telling everybody about what you just experienced. And so it's not, and the funny thing is, I have realized that it's not about being so big and over the top as much as it is being realistic for what I want to impress and inspire them with. If I want to get them to think counter to where they've been thinking, if I want them to consider a new perspective, or if I want them to get courage or examples of stuff, that's where I go. So I call that my evolution of where my reader starts and where I want them to end. And the way I do that, now you're going to think I'm a nerd and crazy, but I figure out my dilemma for the story. And the way I do that, and I'm sorry, I'm talking so fast, but I just got through teaching this to a group of students and they hated me for it. But now that they've been forced to do it, they're like, oh my God, this works. And so with the dilemma, the dilemma is the choice that you want the reader to make through your character, and you want it to be nail biting. You want them to feel it. You want them to almost be embarrassed or whatever it is. You want them to really feel that emotion that you decided on. Mm-hmm. And the way I do it, and I learned this from a script writing class, is you choose either two goods or two bads, and they both have the same outcome, but there is, some little skin in the game. So for instance, two goods, I write romance, as you possibly know. Mm-hmm. Two of my goods would be, she gets to keep the money and save the family, or she gets to keep the money and go away with the guy. The drawback is that she won't be able to stay where her family is either way, or something like that.
Right.
So I always
they're mutually exclusive, these mm-hmm. goods. Okay.
Yeah. Same thing with the bads. They both have the same outcome. Because I used to get it twisted. I used to have it where it was an either or. And when I went through that screenwriting class, I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Whatever they're going to end up with, they're going to end up with it, but you just give them two ways to get there. And you make, even if it's good, you make a drawback. But if it's bad, like I had just finished up one where her dilemma was she was going to die. Now, of course, in romance, we have happy ever after. So wink, wink, she didn't die. But I had it where either she shoot the guy or she, gets exploded. Yes, don't judge me. I go there. She gets she gets into this, she explodes her van that has all of this technology in it. Either way, the choices are, I'm going to die. I got these two decisions. So I hope that makes sense.
It makes so much sense. It's just kind of blowing my mind up right now that I've never thought about that either, ever. I've always had the either or.
Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you from that book that I just finished, the dilemma, how it goes back into the empathy and the emotion. So the emotion that I wanted for her was I wanted her to get over herself. She was all in this victim mode of, oh, they hate me. I'm a woman, blah, blah, blah. I'm in the technology, STEM field and blah, blah, blah. Nobody, just the pity party. And so that was the emotion of the angst of being misunderstood, taken for granted, or whatever you want to call it. The empathy that I used when I opened it up, I showed her, and I have a rule, Rachel, all my heroines, they can't work for somebody. They're either going to get fired or they have their own business. So that's just a personal rule. So she's gotten fired, and she's determined that she's going to still do her research, and she's out living on the land trying to do her research with no money. And I really build up that she's determined. She might not know exactly what she's doing, but I get the reader to say, oh, me too. I would do that too if they did that to me. And so step number 3 is that dilemma. Where I've got her where she has the power to decide the most ultimate thing. I'm going to die, but I'm going to die on my terms.
Yeah.
On my terms.
Yeah.
So once I figure out how I'm going to end it, then my step number 4 for me is I want to now explore all the different ways that I can intrigue, induce, hoodoo, if you will, the reader through all of the things that are going to take her from that hook that I want in the beginning to that dilemma. And then once I explore that, it's kind of like I go deep and then I go wide. And once I explore that, then I put in the character stuff, what we would call the character development. I start putting in what experiences she must have in order for this to be realistic. So for instance, I knew I was going to have her in the woods. Girl, I had to go back in there and make sure she was a Girl Scout. Because, those kind of things
Perfect.
happen. And that's my process, my 5. Once I get that, I have a book. I know it sounds crazy, but I am not a traditional writer, and I was doing all of that plotting, and it would change anyway. And
I love it so much. And what you're talking, it makes perfect sense. And what you're talking about is what I really love that you're saying here is you are thinking really explicitly about the reader and the reader's expectations, emotions, and and all that goes on with the reader, rather than, I think a lot of us start out with like, well, what do I want the character to do? How am I going to shape the character? You're talking about shaping the reader, which is huge.
That's why my word of mouth is so big. I don't really try to market as much anymore, because I am blessed to have loyal fans. Because when I tell you I do the PP test, if you're reading one of my books, especially that I've written in the last year or so, like I said, you're not going to that bathroom till I say you go, because I am giving you the show of my life with all the resources I have up to that moment. And it is, it's not over the top. I believe that if I'm going to ask you to suspend disbelief, then I got to give you a great reason to believe in what I'm suspending, you know. And so, just so once I have that, and I'll be honest with you, it takes me about an hour or so to run through those 5, because I do the top of my head, what comes to the top of my head, and then I put it aside, because I'm usually working on something else, and something will come to me. I put it aside for maybe a few hours or the next day, and then I come back and I look at some of the experiences and things like that, and then guess what I do? I start writing.
You just jump right in.
And the reason why is, I don't know if you've heard me say this, but I really believe this with my heart, that we are mortal beings pooping out immortality, and therefore there is a cost to be paid. And that cost is we are to be these funnels of individual creative drive that the creative force comes through. If I do so much plotting, I am causing myself to suffer, and I'm selfish. I don't want to suffer any more than I have to. Now, I do want to say this as a disclaimer. If we're talking about people who are just starting out with writing, plot. Learn. No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Learn the plot.
Learn that. So then you can break it.
Yeah, because like I was like, somebody tell me one more time about Mrs. Stephen King. Now I applied and I'll be like, but Stephen been writing for 50 years and you haven't. He knows story backwards and forwards, so he doesn't need it. Right. One of my students was like, well, I don't want to plot. I was like, but your story suck if. So,
well, I think that, and I talk about this often, that I think a lot of us with our first book, we accidentally hit the right story structure because we've internalized it over so many years of living in Western civilization and absorbing TVs and movies. But then when we tried to do it for that second book, that's when I personally realized I didn't know how to write a story. I'd accidentally got it wrong. So that's when I had to learn all the structure. But then, once you know it.
Yeah. And there are, and of course, the age-old pantser or plotter. What I tell people now, and me being a psychotherapist for years, I had to find different modalities to get people to make the leaps, and no two people think alike. And so for some of my people who hate plotting, I'm like, draw it out. So what I do is I give them the Kurt Vonnegut story shapes. And I'm like, honey, we just drawing hills, peaks, and valleys, and just follow that. If you are up and you know it's time to go down, follow that.
Go down.
And people get it. If I am dealing with my analyticals, my people who have the Socratic method, I'm talking about my engineers, my lawyers. They make great writers, by the way.
They do. So many lawyers.
Yeah. They great writers. I will then give them the plotting stuff, because I don't want it to be confused. I know how to plot. Mm-hmm. I've taught it. I've lived it. So I think the only reason why I'm able to do those 5 questions for the reader and then start writing is because it's in me. I have practiced to build that skill of what a story needs. I mean, Rachel, I do this with subplots. Now I'll write down some of the subplots, but the subplots are simply there to really give, my readers she did that. I didn't know how she was going to bring that around, but she did that. That story click, we do all of that. And so going back to my Grammarly. So the first thing I do is when I write, I have 2 ways that I write. I write ugly and I write meaningful. And there's this training on the way we think, and it's system 1 and system 2. System 1 is the easy stuff. It's the, what's your name? My name is Michelle. You don't have to think about it. It's intuitive. It's up and out. And that's sprinting for us writers. And so when I tell people I write system 1 first and then system 2, system 2 is the more logical. It is looking for the structure, the bones, the clarity, and all of those types of things. So how my typical day is set up. When I am writing, first of all, I get in my mind that I would love to write 1, 2, or 3 chapters, depending on what I know needs to happen. If it's my opening, I'm only trying to concentrate on 1 to 2 chapters because I write slower in the beginning, finding the voice than I do once I get past chapter 8, forget about it. It's over. I can do that. So when I write, and it's so funny. I'm putting together a little training for the first 2,000 words. I find that my students have a hard time getting those first 2,000 words out because they don't know. You need to introduce your main character before you start talking about the walls and the ceilings and the storm.
Because otherwise we don't care.
Yeah, we don't care. Just certain little rules that we don't say they're rules, but that's the difference between a great read and a meh. So when I start the writing, the first thing my whole goal is to quickly introduce who my main character is. Once I have done that, I usually get it into my first sentence. I have her either talking or a narrative telling her name, introducing what she does or whatever. Once I have done that, then I immediately move into how do I get this reader to start empathizing with this girl? Why does her story get to be told out of all the others out there? What makes her so great? That's the know, like, trust kind of thing. And that empathy is usually that scenario that I did in those 5. And I'll do that. I have published, I'm never going to tell this one, but I have published one where the girl was on a walking trail with no access to the bathroom and had to go in the woods.
Instant empathy.
Exactly.
Instant empathy.
So now the reader cares. I mean, does that make sense, Rachel?
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
So I really try to make sure that in my first 500 words, I have done at least 3 things. I have introduced my character, introduced a scenario that gets my reader to empathize, and then I have planted the seed of what kind of emotion, the promise that I'm going to give you, and that this story is going to do as a tool for you. So the first 500 words, that's what I want. I want those 3 things happening.
And you're doing all of this in Grammarly still, and then pulling it out and putting it in a Scrivener.
And the thing is you can export it directly to Microsoft Word if you want. But what Grammarly, as you're typing, is saying, that's wrong. Oh, that's not grammar. It gives you, it's like, girl, I didn't even know how. I was like, oh my God, I have been dangling my modifiers like a hussy. And it catches all that stuff, and you can tell it to check for if it's a novel as opposed to a regular writing.
Oh, wow.
There's so many different options it has, and like I said, I've tried all the ones. I have the autocrit. I shouldn't be naming them. I have Gingerly. Gingerly just does not. I mean, it just hijacks my system, sometimes.
Can I ask you? Does Grammarly show when you repeat a word too much? Okay, that's what I need. That's the thing I can never see.
I thought I said that at the first. My editors, the word to
Mine is but. But I'll have it 17 times on a page, and I didn't know it. Yeah.
Now I will say this: they tell you too much, so they'll now. Okay, I need to preface that. If you have it back to back, like sometimes we'll say to or but. It'll say, get rid of that. But for most of the contractions, conjunctions, and those types of things, A and the but, it's not going to say it. It's too repetitive. What it does is it tells you you've used this word too much. And you can click on it and it'll give you a thesaurus of other words you can use. Or
Wow.
so if you right click on it, it'll give you a thesaurus. If you just click on it, it'll expand why it told you repetitive, and it'll give you some more considerations. And so it has replaced a lot of the apps I use. Like I have Hemmingboard. And I do have a process that I take my books through. So it used to be I would write in Scrivener, then I would put it in Microsoft Word, clean that up, then I would move it over to Hemingway, then I'd use Ginger. But once I got Grammarly, and I realized that I could type up to, I think it depends on the bandwidth. But I usually don't try to force more than about 12,000 words in there at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Before, because it won't erase it. It'll just say, boom, you're done. You know?
Yeah.
This is something nice. Like, unfortunately, we can't go much further here. So you can't stick a whole novel in there. But if you just focus on getting about, 10,000, 12,000 words in there, when you move it over, you're going to be amazed at how clean it is.
Does it bother you at all, though, when you're seeing the errors land on the screen, when you're in that first draft, hurling the words of the page?
Nah.
No.
I don't. And you know why I don't? It's because I have been teaching myself I'm writing ugly and fast.
Yeah.
I'm just getting words out. Because
really
I
believe
know.
that.
Yeah, so I know, like I'll use an egg timer, eggtimer.com, e.gg timer.com. Or I'll use one of the Pomodoros, and I like to write for 50 minutes. And so I'll do the 50 minutes writing ugly, and I'll take a break. And then depending on where I am, I'll probably do maybe 3 sessions of those so that I can get to about 4,000 or 5,000 words.
That's exactly what I do.
Yeah.
That's I do 45s. I do 3 45s and try to end up about 4,000 words.
Yeah. So I do that. So those are the ugly writings. And it looks like blood has been spilt for a greater good, but I do it. When I go back and do my system 2, where I'm actually paying attention, I'm an auditory person. And so I use a Mac. And what I do is I do text to speech. So I just highlight it in Grammarly. And I clean up what they say, but I highlight it in Grammarly. And she starts talking to me. Now I have her talk fast. She starts talking to me while I'm reading it. And then I start cleaning up stuff and, putting more stuff in there so that by the time I'm done, that's how I'm able to get, I usually get about 6,500. Now, if it's to the wire and I know I got to hustle this week, I'm normally trying to get 10 to 15K in a day. And I can do it, but not at the beginning of a book. Well, some of my books are 120K.
Yeah.
And I have to write those in 5 to 6 weeks. So, you can't dilly-dally around. So that's my process.
And are you cleaning up as you go then? Yeah. So you do have a pretty polished draft when you're done. Oh, that's lovely. I tend to do that thing where I throw everything at it and then I clean it up later, which is great for my process, but it does mean that I just have, a couple of weeks of just cleanup, shoveling the crap off the page.
That was the part that became overwhelming for me.
Yeah.
Because when I first started throwing stuff into Grammarly after I had done it. Oh, and by the way, Grammarly gives you a score.
I am an A student. I want a score.
So I usually work until I have it at around 98. I will say, when I first started throwing stuff into Grammarly last year, I was 77 to 85.
Wow, that is a big change.
Now, when I just write directly into Grammarly, ugly, and I'm done, I'm usually at 88 to a 90. Grammarly has taught me a lot. And when I get done with that second pass, I'm usually sitting at about 99.
You've definitely inspired me. When we get off this phone call, I'm just going to go get a month's worth and try it. It can't hurt.
Can't.
Oh my gosh, I could talk to you all day, but this is a short podcast. So you've already told us so much advice. You've already shared so many craft tips. I would love, this is what I'd really love to know from you. When you have those self-doubt or dark days, which I'm sure, please tell me you still have, how do you deal with those dark days? Are there methods that you use to deal with that?
Oh, Oh, yes, of course. Well, real quick, one of the things that I do is I learn about quote unquote cycles. And I actually just taught this at NINC for people.
Oh, cool.
That we're doing this. And this came from years of having to quickly get an understanding of people's personality issues. So real quick, there are four that I can give you that are kind of like existential that we all deal with, but you may have some come up before more than others. So there's one that's called resistance. And it is where you are just so over this. I'm just tired of
every
it.
day. Every day. I have resistance.
Yeah, and with the resistance people, they have a problem with this word called passion because they don't naturally feel it. They think there's something wrong with them. And they normally will get excited about something. And once they either master it or figure out that I don't like this, the passion leaves and it's hard for them to keep going. And so if you're having resistance, Stephen Pressfield did a whole book about it, The War of Art.
The War of Art. It's wonderful.
And he talks about resistance. That's those people. I have that. And when I realized that, I'm like, oh, this is just my resistance to life acting up. And all I do to combat that is to know that if I just keep going one word at a time, instead of getting 3,000 today on my, let me just get 250. If I can get 250, if I can get 12 sentences, 250, I'll be happy. And I do that, and then guess what happens? I start, getting the momentum. And you keep going from there. But I just want to let you guys know, if you have resistance, do not think that because you don't have a passion for it, that it's not real. Resistance people, that's not you. You're not the follow your passion person. You are the do it until it gets done, and then the passion will come when you get the accolades.
Oh, yes.
So the next one is a victim. And we go through that. This is when you find yourself sitting in your room by yourself and everybody's having fun and you got to get this book done. And nobody has it as hard as me. And I pay these bills around here. And good God, can't y'all just, you know what I mean? And so with the victim, there's like this triangular thing where you're all at once. You are the victim, you are the rescuer, and you are the persecutor. Rachel, real fast, this is what it looks like. I'm here stuck by myself. The persecutor. Well, nobody told you to sign up for that newsletter and to try to get this book out next week. That's on you. You did that. So then the rescuer comes in and says, but you were trying to do a good thing, so it's okay. So if you are spiraling out and you know that you have some victim tendency, understand is you are not alone. Everybody is going through the same thing. And just give yourself some self-love and stop, with nobody has it as bad as me, because it's an isolationist thing and you feel like you're alone. So if you need to, go hug your child, your husband, your wife, a teddy bear or whatever and say, I'm not alone. There are other people going through this and we could go through it together. So that's number 2. Number 3 is self-identity. These are, when you're cycling through this is the tell me who I am. These are the people that are going to go run, read the reviews, get upset, and never write again. Don't do that, because it is not about external validation. One of the things that I had to personally learn is that if I don't believe that I am the best freaking author that ever came, that it is a foregone conclusion that I can write my butt off, it will not matter. You will never get anything finished. It won't be up to par of what you think you can do because you have given your power away. So with that one, take the power back and please yourself. So when I was talking earlier and I'm talking about me engaging the reader and I say things like, you go into the bathroom when I say, because I'm going to deliver with everything I've got for that. And I believe in myself. I don't need externals for me to do something. They're very nice to have, but they come and they don't keep me from doing what I need to. That's why now reviews and rejections and all this kind of stuff, they don't bother me like they used to, because I know the average person giving me a 1 star, they ain't wrote no book. They don't know. And if the same thing happened to them, they'd be in the ditch crying. So, so I mean, the last one is worthiness. And this one is the one where you find that imposter syndrome and a whole bunch of that stuff. Now, the problem with the worthiness is if you are in this, you are either being extremely hypercritical or you're being pessimistic with a dash or a big heaping helping of procrastination.
Ooh.
This is the person who does not want to write ugly. This is the person who does not want to have a meh book when they're first starting out. This is the person who a lot of times is fat on knowledge, but thinking that I have all this knowledge means I should be skilled, but they forgot the middle most important part is that you got to practice.
Practice and practice. You've got to get those words out.
And so those are the 4 that I took from when I used to counsel and consult, and that I have now used with myself and with other authors, because we do go through cycles. And I'm guaranteeing you, one of these 4 or a combination thereof is the culprit. And so if you just remember, resistance, it's not about passion. It's about getting it done. Don't be over it. Get through it. Number 2, with the victim, everybody is in this together. You are not isolated. You're not unloved or forgotten. Number 3, the self-identity person, you have to believe you are the best writer you can be. And then people will confirm that. Don't wait for people to confirm that for you to feel like you're able to do it. Take your power back. And then the worthiness people. Quit being so freaking hypercritical. You can tell a worthiness person. They're the ones, authors on other people's pages, talking about, I don't understand how she's making all these sales because she can't write that good. You know, you got worthiness issues.
I know a few of those. I think I have a few of those in my life. Oh my gosh. Where do you live?
I live in Atlanta.
You live too far from me because I need you close. I live in Oakland. So
I might be out that way pretty soon.
If you are, I need to take you out for a drink or a cup of coffee. I would love that. Are you going to be at RWA National?
Yeah. In Denver, right?
Denver this year. Yeah.
Somebody approached me about possibly speaking. I don't know if that's going to happen or not.
I hope you do, because everybody needs to go see you. I find you even more inspiring on this show than I did on Simon's. I just want to be around you and listen to everything you say. Can you please tell us where we can find you, and if you have a newsletter, because I would like to subscribe to it.
Oh my God.
I mean, who says that? Who says I want to subscribe to your newsletter? I really mean that.
I get that a lot, and I am horrific at my newsletter. But if you want the book one, it's michaeldaniels.com/newsletter. But if you want just me,
I want both.
Facebook, if you just go to my page, it's Michelle.Spiva. On Facebook is my profile. My page is Follow Michelle Spiva. And because I have been getting, I'm blessed, so blessed. I'm being inundated with requests kind of like this. I'm going to be opening up a free inspo proto kind of group to help keep people inspired to do what we do. So look out for that.
I will look out for that. I will subscribe, and I will put, when that's open, I'll put that in the show notes, because I just think that you are incredible. And I really can't thank you enough for spending time with me. I hear a lot of writing advice all the time, and you have just said like 17 things that have blown me apart that I just can't wait to get back to the page. And I don't usually have a problem getting the page. So thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome, Rachel. And I hope I didn't corrupt your readers with my weird way of writing.
In the best way. Thinking, I mean, to use a cliche, but just thinking outside the box in such an exciting, vibrant, intelligent, incredible, inspiring way. You're so inspiring. I'm going to stop fangirling now, but like I said, I'm your newest, biggest fan. So
thank you. And thank your readers for listening to this.
My gosh, they're the best. All right. Thanks, Michelle. I'll talk to you soon. Happy writing to you.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.